Hey everyone, Catch 'em All Collectibles here. In today's video, we are going to talk about vintage Pokemon slabs, something that seems to get little to no coverage these days on YouTube relative to modern sealed, modern slabs of all kinds, TCG player charts, what have you. In this video, I'll talk about why the case is that exactly, and I will just show you a bunch of data points of vintage slabs. And is something brewing? I will pose the question to you. Is something brewing in vintage Pokemon slabs? As always, this channel follows my business. This channel has no underlying motivations. I'm highly transparent. These are, let me go back full screen for a second. These are two of my few / only vintage slabs that I have for my long-term collection inventory, whatever you want to call it. This one I just really like. My favorite art in the hobby, PSA 9 first edition Shining Gyarados. And a PSA 8 Shadowless Charizard that I pulled myself in Vegas. I pulled myself this Charizard from a Shadowless pack from a box break in Vegas. I also opened a first edition box that had a Magneton in it that is also in my PC. And then a base unlimited pack. But yeah, I hold those for specific reasons. I do not hold those for investment. But let's get right into the numbers. So the Gyarados that we showed right there. About a year ago, about the date that I set this card back, I recall it being approximately $1,400. As of right now, last couple sold, we have 2,425 and 2,200. So over the past year, I mean, up a solid 40%. Actually, that's 40 to 60%, depending on which data point you're taking. So yeah, if anyone wants to know what website this is, it's alt.xyz. It's very, very good for looking at like last sold. So these are the last sold on eBay. These are all low list. You can't see it, but these are all on eBay. There's an active auction right now. And then the ones below are fixed price at $23.58, $27.50. So when I do pricing for buying people's collections, when I do pricing for listing a card, I use alt.xyz. Not a sponsored thing, just a shout out of a website that I use and I really, really enjoy. So yeah, I mean, 1 year, 40 to 60% increase. I have it. I did not hold it for investment purposes, but it performed very well over that past 1 year. Fossil Dragonite. A year ago, the alt value was $439. That's actually one thing that I'll say too. I never use the alt value. I use alt to compile the recent data points, and then I come up with the average. The alt value on this card is 577. Shout out Java Akuma. He's going to love to see that the alt value is 577. I would not pay you 80%, 70% of 577. I would, if I were buying this slab from you, pay you basically based on like 660, 670 is actually the value, the market value of this card, even though, as I made a video before, cards don't have market values. But anyways, continuing on for that little rant. This card started at actual sale price of $471, and now it's doing numbers, as we saw right here, 50% above that easily. So another card that's up 40 to 60% in that range. Dark Charizard first edition. Mind you, these first couple that I looked at were PSA 9. PSA 10 frequently will just have very few data points. And that's something that I'll get to later in this video. Why, in spite of certain cards going up in vintage Pokemon, I haven't been investing it over the past year. Just cards that are in my PC. And I won't be investing it in the future. I will detail that later in the video. But yeah, looking at PSA 10s, only 6 sales over the past year. The first one was $8,000. There was one at $10,500. There was another one at $8,000. So many things come up. How quality of a card it is, what the cert number is, does it have a print line, does it have a swirl? So many things come up in these cards that makes things change. But yeah, the PSA Dark Charizard first edition, you've got sales in the $650 range up to the $900 range. Another card up 40-ish%. Let's look at the PSA 10 very quickly, and then we will continue on. You've got a sale here at $2,600. You've got a sale here at $3,200. And now it's a little over $3,200. So again, depending on if you take a low or a high one, it's either mostly flat since then, or it's up 20, 30, 40%, depending on, yeah, which ones you're taking, the lows versus the highs. There's always a range. There's always a range on these. Trico EX Team Rocket returns. I do have to shout out the Godly Shad. The Godly Shad was a very big motivation for making this video. He is in the Pokenomics Patreon. He's always asking, Why is nobody making videos about vintage? And again, I will detail in a bit why that is. But in spite of that, in spite of not getting much coverage, there's definitely some coverage here and there, but a lot of these cards are up 40% or so. Lugia, Aquapolis Crystal, Aquapolis Hollow, PSA 9. You've got 2600 to 3480. That's maybe 25-30%. You've got the Gold Star Mewtwo from Hold On Phantoms. You've got a $2,100 sale, and then you've got the card being at nearly $3,000. So yeah, one was at $3,000, one was at $2,803. So again, 40%. I can show you time and time again. I can show you so many examples of it going up. But now I did not just cherry pick data. One thing I will do, I will link right now. So how did I decide to show the cards that I showed? How did I pick the Shining Gyarados? How did I pick the Dragonite? How did I pick the Dark Charizard? So to not be accused of cherry picking data, I actually went and I found a video that the Godly Shad had posted a screenshot from recently. Shout out to Alex from Nostalgianomics. Let me move my screen here a little bit. But he made a video about a year ago. Is Pokemon investing in vintage really a safe investment? And he actually showed a bunch of data points where a lot of these same cards had gone down a fair bit over a certain time frame. And this is not by any means, this is not a call out video. This is not a react video. This is not a response video. I just looked at the same exact cards that he did in his so that I could not cherry pick, so that I could show you just a random selection of cards that had been shown earlier to be performing fairly poorly. Times can change. Cards can have seasons where they're up, seasons where they're down, but I didn't show all of them yet. I did cherry pick which ones I showed you first. So to be entirely fair to Alex and to demonstrate that this is not a call out video, many of the cards are flat. Some of the cards are down. The market is not a monolith. There are many sayings out there like a rising tide lifts all boats. In 2020, that was not just a rising tide. That was floodwaters like we have never seen before. That was not a 1,000-year. That was not a 100-year flood. That was not a 1,000-year flood. That was a once potentially in a lifetime flood. The rising floodwaters lifted everything. They lifted everything 2x to 20x to 50x. The amount of money that was made on my former collection pre-2020, I had amassed an actual collection. I was a collector boy, Dan. I'd amassed a collection nearly worth 6 figures. And overnight, a lot of those cards, not really overnight, but over the span of a year, a lot of those cards 2x to 20x. I don't think we'll ever see anything like that again. If we do, Arceus bless us all. Arceus will have bless us all. But yeah, continuing on, closing out, I have another 5 or 6 cards that Alex showed in that video that are largely flattered out. This one actually is not. This one, my mind went to, what was the original high pop card? I will show you in a little bit a couple modern cards that are much more higher pop. I apologize for my voice too. I'm slightly under the weather, but I got to get my Mr. Consistent videos out. So this was the OG high pop card. Shout out Gary, King Pokemon. He graded several thousand of these back in 1999. They were sold on Home Shopping Network with Ken Golden helping Gary sell these on Home Shopping Network. But this card's pretty flat. It's got a massive pop. Pop looks like it's a modern card. It's actually a 25-plus-year-old card. And yeah, pretty flat over the past year. Just interesting to look at that one. But this was one. I believe this is one that Alex showed. This one's mostly flat, again, depending on... Actually, this one's slightly up. Depending on what data point you take. This one's more up than flat. I think this is just one that was supposed to be towards the front of the video, but I put it in the wrong spot. So here's one. Here's one where PSA 9, Jungle First Edition, Snorlax, kind of like the card. In Jungle, you have Snorlax and you have Vaporeon. Most people would tell you those are like the two chase cards. You've got Jolteon, you've got Flareon, you've got the other ones. But as far as value goes, Snorlax and Vaporeon have always kind of led the way, especially in PSA 10. But PSA 9 Snorlax, 700 down to recent sales being at 560, 687, 560. So yeah, 700 a year ago, you're down 30, 40% on some of these sales. Pretty rough as far as if you're holding that for investment potential, especially considering opportunity cost. Next week, my video will be on opportunity cost in Pokemon. I say it all the time. I don't think people understand what it means. I will show you exactly what opportunity cost means. Sorry, again, I'm really struggling to get through this. I'm going to try to speed up. PSA 8, Shadowless Charizard. This is the card that I hold in my PC because I pulled it in Vegas. Again, depending on which one you take, if you take this high sale, that was actually an auto 9, so I didn't realize that when I started recording. PSA 8 auto 10. But here's a couple of PSA 8 sales, 2,300, 2,325, 2,100. The card is pretty flat, $2,000. So the card is pretty much where it was a year ago. This is not an investment for me. This is a PC card. I flew all the way to Vegas, and I pulled this card myself. I have pulled a base set unlimited PSA 9. I have pulled a PSA 8 Shadowless Charizard. I still need to pull that ever elusive, well, whatever it grades at PSA, probably a PSA 8 again. But I need to pull that ever elusive first edition Charizard that I've never pulled. Hopefully I will be able to pull someday. That card's flat. This card, pretty flat, depending on the day. You could sell this card, PSA 9, base unlimited Charizard. You could sell it somewhere around $1,200 back then, and they're selling for around $1,000 to $1,300 right now. Fungibility, not a thing in Pokemon cards. Every card is different. You had some cards being in the mid 1,000s. You had some cards under 1,000. You had some cards pretty much, for all intents and purposes, similar range as it was a year ago. Slightly up, slightly down, depending on the exact copy. Now here is something that people will have already clicked off by now, I'm sure. But some people will be angered. And this is something that I needed to talk about in this video too. Some people will be angered. Dan is shilling vintage. One, I don't own hardly any vintage slabs. So I'm not like trying to make a ton of money off this video. I just wanted to show you that some prices are moving in vintage. So some prices definitely are. This is actual data, actual sold data. But many cards are moving in modern too. The market is not a monolith. Rising tides do not lift all ships. I could they don't always. I could spend 24 hours going through 1,000 or thousands of different cards, some up, some down. I always answer. Anyone who asks me a crystal ball type question could go up, could go down. What's the market going to be 5 years from now? Some cards will be up, some cards will be flat, some cards will be down. That will always be the case. I can guarantee you, as I record this video, I'm recording this Monday morning actually. You're watching this Monday afternoon if you're watching the day that it came out. There will be cards, and I never would have guessed the Gray Felt Hat Pikachu was one of them. Gray Felt Hat Pikachu has doubled in the past 6 months. Gray Felt Hat Pikachu has a market cap of over $15 million as of today's price at PSA alone. That's not counting the CGC Pristines. That's not counting the Beckett Pristines. This card very well probably has a market cap, which is the value by grade multiplied by the value for each grade, over $20 million. And in spite of that, the market cap has doubled. The market cap has doubled as the pop has increased over the past 6 months. So when I say, as I record this video, I'm very confident that a year from now, there will be cards that have doubled, there will be cards that have halved, and there will be cards that are entirely flat. Which ones are which? I have no clue. No clue. If you had told me this card was going to double, and I will make a video very in-depth on the Gray Felt Hat Pikachu. Me and my friend John, Pokemon Radar, we bought a sealed distributor case of 400 of them for nearly $50,000 back at Chicago Collecticon. And by pure chance, we bought right here. So we bought right here. Not at the lows of the summer, but we bought right here. The cards have nearly doubled since then. We're going to get so lucky on that play. We did not do that as an investment. We did it as a pure quick flip, and we're just getting really fortunate with it. So, yeah, it blows my mind, and I could never be one to guess. Here's Moonbreon. Moonbreon, over the past year, Umbreon VMAX 215 from Evolving Skies. We thought it peaked. I thought, maybe you didn't think that. Maybe you knew it was going to go up. $1,500 back in May of 2024. It bottomed at 1,000-ish, depending on which sale you looked at, and in August. It's doubled since August. We are booming right now. Not everything is booming. The market is not a monolith. We're not booming the way. So in many ways, I think the boom of today is bigger than the boom of 2020, but only for certain things. So the 2020 boom was definitely the 2020 boom was definitely wider in that it hit almost everything. It hit almost everything, mid-era, modern, vintage, all of it. The different levels. It didn't hit them all uniformly. But this one is definitely leaving certain things behind. I could show you, I'm not going to, but I could show you 20 different modern cards that went down 30% since August. I could show you cards that went down since their year chart. Vintage, modern, whatever, what have you. But yeah, I just wanted to show, and now I'll talk about as a business. I am a business in Pokemon. I do business in Pokemon. When you look at a card, and no, I did not expect with the populations rising on this card, the way that they are, my PSA ones are still not back. Please, PSA, send them back soon. I want to sell them. But with the pops doing what they did, the market cap and the trade volume. Let me go back to this actually. Which card do you think is easier to do business with? So this card, if I view all, this card, if I scroll down through all the sales, maybe it's 15 or 20 sales. Say it's 15 sales. All of them end by December 1st, 2024. So this card is sold 15 times at $396 to $480 in one day. This card, Hold On Phantoms. Let's actually find one that's closer in value to be more fair. So 700 is a bit much. Let's see. Where was that Snorlax? So this one's pretty close. Maybe they're going to meet soon. This one's on the way down. Great Fell Hat's on the way up. Maybe they're going to meet soon. Which card is easier to do business in? This card, if you scroll back, the last 15 sales put you in September. And you've got some unpaid ones. And I will tell you this. When you sell a PSA 10 Great Fell Hat Pikachu, not guaranteed, but you are significantly more likely, well, you're guaranteed to not get the question of, does it have any print? Does it have a swirl? Does it have any print lines? You're almost guaranteed to not get those questions because they're just not as common in those cards. Well, swirls don't happen in those cards because it's not hollow, but print lines do happen, but not to the same extent. But when, I promise you, having sold tens of thousands of cards, having sold tons of modern cards, tons of vintage cards over the years, the amount of questions you will get asking for a video of the slab, the amount of questions you will get asking for, can I get additional photos of the slab? Does it have a swirl? Is this a scratch? Is that a scratch? You will have significantly more headaches selling this card. You will have significant. Can I go out and buy a distributor case of 400 Jungle First Edition Hollow Snorlaxes? No, I have to buy a $12,000, $13,000 Jungle box, and then only 1 in every 3 packs has a hollow. And if you want to buy a heavy pack is more than $600 likely. I haven't told one in quite a while, but it'd probably right around there, $500, $600, $700 if I had to guess for a heavy jungle pack. Of which you're probably going to pull a pincer. You're probably going to pull an electrode, something like that. So the reason that I don't invest in vintage slabs, the reason that I always say that I'm short plastic, long cardboard, is that I truly believe in the hobby long term. I truly believe Pokemon will outlive me. But the opportunity cost of holding slabs, that might go up. They might go up quite decently. But they could also go down, and they could also be flat. And I don't know which. I don't know which is going to happen. Modern sealed, you could say a lot of the same things about. It could go down. People don't believe it, but it absolutely could. Over the long term, though, if the hobby's still around, if people are still ripping product, I'm more confident that will go up over time than the slabs will. So that is why I play there. Why I play in flipping modern slabs over flipping vintage slabs. I can go source this card. I can go to a show and I can find raw copies of this. I can go to a show and I can find sealed boxes of this. I can find these left and right. These are just 2 examples of cards. But look at the sales volume. These cards are more fungible. They are not fungible, but they are more fungible. And one thing I don't get though, one thing I'm confident in this video, there will be people that came to this video that love modern, hate vintage, and they're mad that Dan made a video with vintage in the thumbnail and vintage in the title. Like, why do people get so mad? Why can't both things just do their own thing? Some people, like if they own, some people will be in here owning the Moonbryon. Like, haha, your vintage cards suck. My card doubled in the past 3 months. Yours didn't. Vintage sucks. Modern to the moon. Modern's the best. Okay, that's weird. It's really weird when people need to feel the need to have that discussion. Like to do that, I guess it's just the human condition that people need to compare themselves to others, and when they're winning, they need to do their victory laps and such. And then the same thing with vintage too. Like they can just be their own separate things. They can do their own things. And if you had to ask me, one video I made some time ago that I thought was interesting to bring up too. Where'd it go? This one. So I made a short. Saying this or that. A lot of people chose the Moonbryon. A lot of people chose the Umbreon VMAX. Oh, sorry, the Umbreon Neo Discovery. They were both $1,000 at the time. So a PSA 10 a PSA 10 Umbreon VMAX from Evolving Skies was $1,000 at the time I recorded this short. So was the PSA 9 Neo Discovery Umbreon first edition. Where they are today, so the Umbreon has doubled, the Moonbryon has doubled, and the Umbreon Neo Discovery PSA 9 first edition, it's only gone up 50 to 80%. Again, it doesn't sell as frequently, so you can't get quite as good of a read on exactly how much it went up, but they both went up significantly. The Moonbryon definitely went up more, and it's a more like real price that is being acted upon multiple times a day. But one additional thing, just to throw a caveat in there, I actually cracked that exact Moonbryon. Moonbryon. I'm losing my mind here. I cracked that exact OG Moonbryon, the Neo Discovery first edition, and I sold it in a recent ZNG block as a CGC 10, not as a PSA 9, and it sold for over $2,000. So one little edge that I'll always give to the PSA 9 is that a PSA 9 could become a PSA 10. A PSA 9 could become a CGC 10, and it has ways to improve it. I guess theoretically a PSA 10 could become a black label, but I'm not going to be out here cracking PSA 10s. But yeah, it's like vintage people who hate modern. It is what it like. Let modern exist. Eventually, long enough timeline. If Pokemon continues on, I'm sure people will funnel back. Not everyone will, but people will funnel back to vintage. Like you need modern. You need modern to get people in the door. And most businesses in the hobby, most people in the hobby, Pokemon themselves, they don't make money when I sell this on eBay. They don't make money when this card doubles. They make money, not directly. But when the Moonbryon doubles from $1,000 to $2,000, they make money because people go out and they buy Evolving Skies packs. They buy Pokemon today is releasing tins. All those Black Friday deals, all those Walmart tins, whatever they may be. Pokemon today is releasing Evolving Skies packs and various products. Some people think that it's not being printed today, but I'm quite confident it would be being printed today. So I think Evolving Skies is still in print. I think it's still getting reprints. That could be its own video. But they're just putting it out in loose packs. They're putting it out in tins and boxes and things like that. Crown Zenith constantly being reprinted. Many of these sets being constantly reprinted. But the Moonbryon being $2,000 gets more of that sold. And even if you want to say, okay, that Evolving Skies is old stock. I don't believe it, but okay, say it's old stock. Moonbryon going up to $2,000. That still sells more product overall. Because not only Moonbryon has gone up to $2,000, a lot of other cards are up. And the modern graded market being strong is what keeps people in live streams, ripping those packs, buying those 9-pack lots. Shout out to Fanatics Live. If you want to join, $25 credit. If you are a new account, use code KETCHEM20 for your first buy now purchase to save an additional $20. But yeah, I think that's going to be it. My voice is almost entirely gone. I appreciate everyone bearing with me throughout that video, but I don't invest in plastic because I don't have the ability to guess which ones are going to go up, which ones are going to go down. If I had to round out the video and maybe make some people who are heavily into modern a little mad, but maybe they'll just say, Dan, you're dumb, because clearly it hasn't worked over the past year, so it's not going to work 20 years into the future. But if I had to, if you made me invest in one of these two cards, at the time I made that video, which would have proven wrong as of today, at the time I made the video, I would have picked the left one. I would have picked the OG Umbreon Neo Discovery, PSA 9 first edition, to hold long-term, speculative. I still think in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years, I think that card on the left will be worth more than that card on the right. Even without cheating, even without grading it as a CGC 10, I think that card on the left will be worth more, but I could be wrong. So I don't have enough cash flow. I don't have enough capital to make those speculative gambles in which cards, which plastic do I think sitting around in a pile. I'd rather have the money. Aside from ones that are meaningful to me, I'd rather have the money moving through the business. And yeah, that's where I'm at. I will probably talk about things like this more in the future. Vintage versus modern is always a debate, always a hot topic that needs to be discussed. But yeah, let me know your thoughts below. What do you think about the vintage versus modern debate? If you had to pick one of those two cards to hold long term, which would you pick? And why can't we all just get along? Why can't we all just get along? Hopefully, people will understand. Oh, yeah, I think I didn't finish my thought fully. But Pokemon makes money. PSA makes money. Does PSA make more money on this card? Or does PSA make more money on this card? You have to spend more money to grade this card. And I know this is a BGS slab. But PSA, Pokemon themselves, eBay, Fanatics, Heritage, Golden. Actually Heritage and Golden, they might make more money on vintage, selling those high-end trophies. But where do most companies in the space that pull money out of the hobby make their money? Most people make their money in modern, myself included. There's more money there. The market caps are higher. The liquidity is higher. So that is why I do business in those spaces, because I don't want to fight the current. I will occasionally. One thing I used to do in the past that I will do more in the future, I used to buy clean-looking PSA 9s. So that I could try to make them a PSA 10, so that I could try to make them a BGS 9.5, a BGS 10, so that I could try to make them a CGC 10. Slab optimization. I used to do it in the past more. I will be doing it more in the future because I feel a lot of vintage slabs, I feel like a lot of them are relatively undervalued. Not to the extent that I will speculate on holding them long term, but based on the fact that I think I can buy a lot of them, and in the 1 month it takes me to regrade them with a different company, I feel quite confident the bottom won't fall out on most of them. Maybe some of them that have gone up 50, 60, 80, 100% in the past year, those ones might be a little more risky, and maybe I won't make the optimization play on those ones. But some of the ones that have been flat or down, like a PSA 9 base unlimited Charizard, I feel quite confident the bottom's not going to fall out 30, 40% on the time that I buy it in a PSA 9 and the time I try to sell it in a CGC 10 or a CGC 9.5 or a BGS 9.5. So yes, 27 minutes later, voice entirely gone. That is my entire video. I appreciate you all watching. I will catch you all later.